AFC East fans, it's time to tap in. The first wave of free agency is over, and with the top 100 mostly signed to their new teams at this point, and the AFC East did do some damage in the free agency market, but there's still a lot of questions to be answered. So we're going to get into what needs to happen between now and August as we get prepared for the draft. So let's dive into our yearly segment of where did they go from here as we dive into the AFC East today and their needs post-free agency. Let's get into it. Real quick, man, I want to shout out to all our LDSN heavy hitters and lockdown defenders. The network has been on the run. We started our Patreon. That's doing well. We're getting big-time numbers, and the numbers are going up and up and continue to climb in this nice little run we've been going on through YouTube Stratosphere in the past several months, man. So I want to shout out to everybody that supported us through this wave. And all our new subscribers out there, man, shout out to y'all. Salute to each and every one of y'all. Even if you're here for hate listening, I'm here to support you as well. We are here to bring you all the good news and the bad news about NFL off-season coverage as we get ready for the NFL season in September, man. So I want to shout out y'all real quick. And myself and the rest of his squad, we're going to be here to get you ready for the draft, get you right and ready for the place that you need to be into once the draft kicks off and get into the off-season program and training camp and all that good jazz. So we're going to be right here covering it all for you, man. So we're going to start with the AFC East and talk about where do they go from here? The AFC East team needs post-free agency. So we're going to be doing the AFC all week long this week. We'll do the NFC next week. We're going to talk about everybody's needs post-free agency. We're going to get into all of that. We're going to break down everything that you did from an off-season perspective, your trades, your acquisitions, your free agency, that jazz, and what are the glaring holes that you need to address before the draft gets here and ultimately before the season gets here over the summer. So, yeah, we're going to break that all down. So like I said, we're going to start with the AFC East. The Patriots ran off with a division for the first time since Tom Brady donned Patriot blue. And what they did or didn't do in free agency to stay on top, as well as what the rest of the division did, we're going to cover it all. So we're going to get into every single bit of what the team needs are in our segment this week, in our free agency market segment. So we're going to get into that. So let's jump right in to talk about the AFC East. So if you're AFC East on the AFC West on the brain. Bills fans, Patriots fans, Jets fans, I'm sorry. And of course, Dolphins fans, I'm sorry again. But yes, if you're a fan of any of those teams, man, we're going to break down everything that's going on with your particular organization. So like I said, we're going to get into the division itself. We're going to talk about the free agency acquisitions. After that is all said and done, what they still need to address, what their top three positional needs they have after the free agency market is hit. And what are the ideal free agent that's still out there that you can get or draft pick you can get that will fit that need or fill that void to get you right and ready for the 2026 season, man. So we'll get into it all. So like I said, we'll talk about the Bills, the Dolphins, the Patriots, and the Jets in order. Let's go alphabetical order. Let's just be fair about it, so we don't seem like we're biased. So yeah, man, we'll talk about the Buffalo Bills first. And they were pretty busy in free agency. Despite the interesting fact about them, that they are still at this very moment, as we recording this video, over the cap. I'm not sure how they're getting away with that because the rules are supposed to be that when the league year starts, which was last Wednesday, that you were supposed to be cap solvent by the time the new league year starts at 4 p.m. on that Wednesday. They still are $5 million over the cap. I don't know how they're doing it. I don't know if they have some type of promissory deal going on and say that, hey, we're just going to restructure this contract, this, that, the third. We're going to get something in the works, whereas though we're going to be under, over the cap or be cap solvent, I should say, by the time, the draft hits. I don't know. They worked out some type of broker deal. I don't know what they did. But they're still, if you go to Sports Track, over the cap, whatever you want to go to as far as looking at free agency cap space in 2026, they're over. They're still in the red. I don't know. But despite all that, they made some interesting moves in free agency to try to kind of revamp this roster. Of course, we got a new regime in the house. Joe Brady's the new head coach. Sean McDermott's gone. So what are they going to do to kind of pivot and do things a little bit differently the Joe Brady way? So they jumped right out there and traded for DJ Moore. Gave up a second-round pick to the Bears for him. Getting them again yet a number one receiver. I had harped on this all 2025 season if you watch our coverage. That they are void of a number one receiver and they needed one. And they went out and got it. Congrats to them, salute to them for understanding that was the need. Now, what does that mean for Keon Coleman and then how they browbeat him? And have they lost him completely? Will he get traded by the time the draft comes? We don't know. But I feel like Keon Coleman's on the way out. So that would, usher in DJ Moore being number one, and him and Khalil Shakir will probably be the lead dogs in the receiver room, and maybe they'll add some guys in the draft. But yeah, so DJ Moore is the number one guy they got. They re-signed Connor McGovern, their center, brought him back, which is interesting because they kind of moved Connor McGovern out the way and started a new center, Franz Grander, throughout the last part of the season. So I thought that Connor McGovern was done. I thought he actually might be a Charger, in all honesty, because that was my pick if it wasn't for Tyler Linderbaum. So he resigned with the team, surprisingly. So they found the money to bring him back. So I'm assuming they're gonna move Franz Grander back over to guard, maybe. I don't know, but we'll see how that goes. But they did re-sign him. They signed Bradley Chubb, a division rival, coming over from the Dolphins. He's now a Bill. They got a new edge rusher in the room. I guess he's going to replace Joey Bosa because they haven't re-signed Joey Bosa at any point. Signed D. Alford, a cornerback. They needed that. Definitely needed that. Pairing him with Maxwell Harrison and Christian Bedford, I think that was a good idea. Extended Dawson Knox, and that was curious to me because I didn't think Dawson Knox would be back with the team because they have Dalton Kincaid. I thought they might want to go cheaper in a sense, but they must love Dawson in some stretch of the imagination because they keep bringing him back. He's been playing second fiddle to Dalton Kincaid, obviously, but they like those two tight end sets, so I guess they wanted to retain him. Also went on got C.J. Gardner-Johnson, but I thought that was a pretty savvy move. Getting a veteran, gritty safety, jack of all trades kind of guy, can play the slot, can play the run, can play coverage, in the back end of their defense. So yeah, very savvy move in getting C.J. Gardner-Johnson and bringing some grit to the locker room. Also signing Geno Stone as another safety, bringing him in. So they pretty much solidified their safety room, moving off from the guys of, Damar Hamlin. I was getting the guy's name messed up. Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, those guys are moving off of them. And they still have my guy, Cole Bishop, in the house too. So that rotation is looking pretty decent now. But they did end up trading Taron Johnson away, a cornerback that they had, for the last few years, traded him away. They released Curtis Samuel, which I kind of saw coming, and they released Taylor Rapp. I was interested in to say that as well. I think Taylor Rapp was a McDermott guy, so they kind of moved off from him because he was a McDermott guy, quote unquote. So yeah, moving off from him and bringing those other safeties in with Cole Bishop. I like what they're doing in the safety room now. I think they might need a little stronger corner still, but they're making moves to try to shore up that secondary, which was a problem area for them in 2025. So yeah, it's some good signings there for what the money they don't have. I'm still not understanding how they pull this off, but they swung it. So looking at this list, what's going to be the most glaring holes they have and glaring issues they have on this roster that still needs needs some improvement, I guess you can say. So for my money, because again, I harped on the fact they don't have no cap space, right? I think they need an interior D lineman first off. I think that's the first thing they need to address. The interior defensive lineman to go along with Ed Oliver. Ed Oliver's been banged up. He's been hurt. They haven't had a guy next to him in that 4-3 scheme that's, air quote, been able to work with him to stop the run efficiently. So I think they need to get an interior defensive lineman. Clearly they have no cap space, so they can't sign anybody for agency, so they got to go draft there. I still think they need another wide receiver to another guy on outside because, again, I think Keon Coleman is cooked with the organization, how they, basically, shot him up and, basically browbeat him to death in the media in the offseason. So I think he's done. So I think they need to replace him with another outside receiver and let Khalil Shakir play the slot. I think that's another need. And again, it has to be drafted because they have no money. And they need an interior linebacker. Matt Milano and some other guys are gone. Shaq Thompson is gone. So I think they need a nice, young, gritty, especially run-stopping linebacker in the interior. I think those are the top three needs. And it's, it's a little two defensive ones, one of offensive mind. I think the O-line is pretty straight, especially with bringing McGovern back. So I think those are the biggest glaring needs that they have at this point. So, and now again, this will probably be their first 3 draft picks. Now, mind you, they don't have a second rounder, so they got to go fishing for that linebacker in likely the later rounds. But we'll see. We'll see. But guys I have my eye on, I've done my deep diving in scouting and things of that nature. And they are picking late in the first round, obviously, because they made the playoffs and went to the divisional round. So they're picking in the late 20s. So I would argue, again, for the interior D lineman guy is a good run stopper, I would pair him up with the likes of Cade McDonald, the big, gritty, no run stopping nose tackle, or Lee Hunter. Now, the thing about Cade McDonald is that he shows really good on film. But for some reason, he had a real bad outing at the combine. Like a lot of people were saying his draft stock took a hit. with his performance or lack thereof in the combine. But what I see on film is, it's one of those things like he's not necessarily in trouble from a outside, criminal perspective like Jalen Carter was. But I look at it from that perspective. Like what I see on film tells me a lot of how he plays. And if he's just really there, his primary focus is to stop the run. I don't see him not being able to do that well in the league. I just don't. I mean, his strength, his frame, his body type, it all fits. If you pair him up with Ed Oliver, it's make Ed Oliver's job a lot easier. But again, if you don't want to, if you don't like the idea that his stock is dropping, because I really believe the fact that his stock is dropping is going to probably land him in the Bills' lap, in all honesty. So I would take him because I don't think if he had a good combine and he probably would have been a top 15 pick, he wouldn't even had a shot at it. But the fact that he kind of took a little bit of a hit from the combine, air quote, then I would argue that I would definitely take him if he's available to me in the 20s. But if you want to go a safer route, I would go with Lee Hunter. Lee Hunter is another, real gritty run-stopping DT that's going to be really good to pair with Ed Oliver as well. So I think you can't go wrong with either guy. But again, I just think the tape shows a little more, grit and flash and just dominance from K. McDonald's perspective than Lee Hunter. But again, I still don't think you can go wrong with either one, especially again, if they're going to play next to Ed Oliver, then you're looking good no matter what. But I would argue that if you could pick one of those guys in the 20s in the first round, then I would definitely do that. Then, like I said, they don't have a second round pick, so they're going to have to get into the third round and talk of receiver. And I would argue that they want to go outside, bounce your X type guy, because again, DJ Moore is that other I guess you can say multifaceted slot / outside wide receiver. So I think that in him being that the more the agile and burning type of guy, you need a bounce your X guy, a taller receiver. So I would look at Chris Brazil the second. I think he's out of Tennessee. I think he's about stretch about 6'4", 6'5", runs like lightning. So just to be clear about that, very tall and very rangy, gazelle-like receiver that you can utilize on the outside to get open, big body target, like big time red zone threat. I think that he would fit glowingly with Bills and Josh Allen to be another threat. I would kind of argue that he probably would be what they wanted Keon Coleman to be. He's faster than Keon Coleman. He's just as big, rangy, big catch radius. So I think you can maybe, I guess you can say, I don't want to call Keon Coleman a mistake, but you kind of right the wrong of what Keon Coleman was or wasn't and bring in Chris Brazil. And I think he would definitely fit that bill. And pairing him up with Shakir and Moore would be a match made in heaven for that offense. With those two tight ends too, then yeah, I think you're cooking with gas when it comes to the idea of having him in your offense. But if he's not available to you, and I think he might be in the third round in your pick, but if he isn't, the second option we'll go with is Zane Stribling. He's another taller receiver that's pretty rangy, pretty fast. Now Zane is not as tall as Chris. Chris is 6'5", but Zane is 6'2". But yeah, he's definitely let me give you his numbers real quick. He's 6'2", 210. Ran a 4.36 in the combine from a 6'2" perspective. So yeah, I would argue that even though he's not as tall as Chris, he definitely can run at 6'2". So yeah, he's another good option. That's a later the third round or 33 guy that you can pick up that should be a good and productive option for you. Or the third one could be Jacoby Lane. I think he's out of USC, if I'm not mistaken. Let me look at my numbers here. Yeah, Jacoby's out of USC, and he's 6'4", 200 pounds, and he runs a 4.47. So yeah, I would think that those three guys will fit the bill. They can run, they're tall, they're rangy. I think that you can't go wrong with any three of these guys if they can get them on day three. So that would definitely be a good fit in any capacity. And I think out of the three, I think Jacoby is the best run after catch guy. So yeah, I mean, if they want a guy that can pay the boundary X and can run after the catch, yeah, that's definitely a good pickup too. So, but again, I don't feel like you can go wrong with any of these guys. And then you get to the fourth round, we need an interior linebacker. The two guys that I'm kind of tracking, Caleb Elam's-Orr is really on my list as a sleeper linebacker. I'm gonna start with him because I really love what he is as a great value pick as the day three guy. I can't speak enough about him, and I'm kind of he's out of TCU, 6'2". I'm kind of selling myself out here because I really feel like he is a guy that's going to be a sleeper. And if I talk about it too much, I feel like he's going to go earlier than expected. But yeah, great kid at TCU, 6'2", 230, runs a 4.40 as a linebacker. Yeah, I think that he's a slam dunk pick if he's there for you at the fourth round. Another option would be Bryce. I'm gonna butcher this, but Bochetter, I'm gonna say Bryce Bochetter. Yeah, I think he's out of Oregon. Bryce Bochetto's out of Oregon. Yeah, so yeah, he's another one that is on my list. I think he's going to be a good one as well. He's going to be a day 3 guy that can fit the bill. But I don't think you go wrong with either one. But Bryce Bochetto and Caleb should be a good value pick that gets you a good run stopping and coverage guy. Especially with Caleb's case, Caleb can cover a little bit. I think he was definitely be a good add for them in the free agency period. So we'll see. But those are my picks. So if they get these all of these guys in that space, then they should be cooking with gas going into training camp. But get into the Dolphins next. We'll talk about the Dolphins, and they've had a lot of things going on. They've done a lot of shuffling, new regime coming in from the Packers, Jeff Hafley and their group, the assistant GM coming over from the Packers to be their GM. So it's a new regime out there, man. They did a lot of cutting, holding a lot of dead money. I think they're looking like the Broncos were a few years ago, maybe even worse in the dead money department. Getting rid of Tyreek Hill, Bradley Chubb, taking that big hat from Tua. Massive. So we'll start with the signings. They got Malik Willis after they did all their due diligence and moving people around. He's going to be the starter most likely. They re-signed Willie Gay. They signed Josh Uche, the edge rusher. They signed Tutu Atwell. They signed Jalen Tolbert. They signed David Ojabo, former Ravens edge. See how he does, coming over from the Ravens. But for some reason, the Ravens just don't develop edge rushers right. But when they go other places, they seem to do well. Ask Odafe Owe that question. He's gotten $100 million off of that one run he had with the Chargers. So we'll see what David Ojabo can do. Maybe he can turn his career around because he definitely was a highly touted and highly athletic edge coming out of the draft. And I think they spent a first round pick on him. Yet again, I don't know what they're doing in Baltimore because they can't develop the edge. But yeah, so that's their signings. And like I said, they released Tua, they released Tyreek, they released Mink, they traded Minka away to I believe the Jets. They released Bradley Chubb, they released Jason Sanders, they released Alec Ingold, who's now a Charger. They released Liam Eichenberg. They're one of their guards. So yeah, there's a whole lot of shuffling going on. And they do have quite a bit of picks in the draft. But again, like I said, they're hemorrhaging money, no cap space. So what are their needs going to be? Top 3 needs going to be after this wave of free agency. Again, no cap space to speak of. Very, very limited in the money. So I think they need to go. They're picking high in the draft, and they got quite a few picks in the top 100. So I would argue that they need to go cornerback, safety, and center in their first 3 picks. I think that should be their first areas of addressing, based on what they have in house already and based on what they really, really need, a really glaring hole that they have at this point still. I think they need to draft a corner early. You draft a safety behind that, get a secondary back trending in the right direction and get themselves a center. I think they're going to need a center to kind of anchor that line. And they got some decent tackles, and again, the center will definitely balance out that line a little bit. So we'll see. I think some good day 3 guys they can probably get to address that issue. But guys I'm looking at for them, as well as I talked about earlier, their pick is so high, and I don't think the corner is going to go before their pick. So I'll pick the best corner and just sleep well. Mansour Delane out of LSU, ladies and gentlemen, he might be the top lockdown corner in the draft. It's not much I don't like about this kid's game. That's not much I don't like. We told 6 foot, 190 pounds. He didn't run at the combine, but he's more of a man coverage guy. They protect him at about a 4.4. We'll see at his pro day. But yeah, I mean, the film speaks for itself. I mean, if you want to Google him, you got some time on YouTube, just look at his highlights the last couple of years. He's a dog. He's a dog. I mean, they kind of compare him to a Patrick Surtain-esque type of corner. He can just come in right in day one to be that kind of lockdown corner. So yeah, I just, again, and I would not spend money on Jared McCoy because he's coming off that ACL. So draft the lane and sleep well. That's your starting corner. That's your number 1 corner for the next 4 to 5 years, guaranteed. So yeah, I would do that in a heartbeat. That's not even an issue. They're picking 11th. So yeah, I'm definitely doing that. Safety, I'm coming back in the second round early again, and the first 11 picks, and I'm getting either Emmanuel McNeil-Warren if he's still there. He hadn't gone in the late first round because it's a possibility he could. It could be 2 to 3 safeties going to leave. Caleb Downs and Dylan. I'm going to butcher his last name, so I'm not going to try at the moment. But yeah, Dylan from Oregon and Caleb Downs is going to go in the first round, definitely. So I think that Emmanuel last, kind of like Eamon Warrior did last year, last to the second round. Then you pick him up early, and he's going to be a good starting safety for you in Miami. And if he's not there for some reason because he got picked up early in the first or earlier than your pick, then A.J. Hawley's another good backup option to that. I like A.J. Hawley's game as well. I think he's pretty good from a safety perspective. He's out of LSU as well. 6 foot, 225 pounds, running 4.52 40 at 220 pounds. Yes, absolutely. Really good in zone coverage, really good ball skills. Yeah, the kid can ball. He definitely can play. So yeah, if you get Emmanuel or AJ, yeah, I think you're cooking with gas and teaming them up. And I would argue that you might just want to be biased and just team AJ and Mason and Mansour up together because they're both LSU guys. Just team them both together. Why not? They already know each other. They're already familiar with each other. They play in the same secondary. So yeah, I would team them up together if you can't get Emmanuel. I mean, I think I would pick Emmanuel over AJ slightly, but if you can't get him, then AJ's definitely not a bad pick at all. You're definitely doing yourself a service by either one. So I would definitely get him in the draft for either or, and just really look at having a different look in your secondary in the 2026 campaign. And in the third round, I'm going after Jake Slaughter. He's the best center in the draft to me, and I think that he might last a day three. Because it's going to be a big run on tackles, going to be a big run on interior O linemen, and I think that the center's position because Connor Lew and Sam Heck and some other guys are kind of slated higher than Jake Slaughter is. I think that he's going to be prime picking to be a day three pick in the third round. Get him early and get him that 11th pick and just go to work because I think he's ultimately going to be the best center in this draft class. I would like for him to go to the Chargers, but they already got a center, so they probably won't even look at him. But yes, again, I believe that he's definitely going to be a great center for the Dolphins. So I definitely believe that you get Jake Slaughter, then you're definitely cooking with gas and solidifying your interior O-line starting there for sure. So I definitely would do that. So we'll see how that goes. So getting into the Patriots, next to the divisional champs, AFC East champions at the moment, they went always to the Super Bowl in year one with Vrabel. They moved off of Stephon Diggs and Anthony Jennings. Obviously, they released them only 2 releases. They went after Romeo Dobson to replace Diggs. Signed Elijah Very Tucker, which is a very good signing for the interior. They got Draymond Jones at the edge to replace Caleb Chason. They signed Kevin Byard, another great safety added to that room. Signed another tight end in Julian Hill. And they got Reggie Gillum as a fullback, and Tommy DeVito, they extended him as a backup quarterback to Drake May. So yeah, I think they did pretty good. I mean, they spent all that money last year in free agency. They didn't need to do much. But what does the Super Bowl runner-ups and AFC champs need to do to kind of keep themselves on the throne here? So we're talking interior D-line. I think they need a nose tackle. They lost Tonga to the Chiefs. I think you need to backfill him to go along with Milton Williams, especially in those 2 defensive ends that they got, those dogs they got in the middle of that D34. You need a good run-stopping zero-tech guy in the interior D-line. So I think you need to address it there early in your first round. Safety is another one to pair another guy with Kevin Byard is another need. I think the corner spot is pretty good. You got Carlton Davis and, of course, Christian Gonzalez, who's one of the best corners in the league. So I don't think you need any corners in that early part of it, but I think you need another safety to go along with Kevin Byard potentially. And another interior linebacker. That's the sore spot they've had. They kind of been doing, I guess you can say, year by year interior linemen in a sense. They've kind of been, shuffling around with that. Get a solid guy maybe on the day 3. Get them a solid guy that's going to be there for a while. And Verbal and those guys can groom. I think that'd be a good need for you as well. But yet again, their roster is pretty real rounded. I would argue that you can splurge on another wide receiver or, another secondary member or, maybe another interior lineman, another third running back. But again, those are superlative needs. I think the top needs would probably be definitely interior D-line, a safety, and an interior linebacker for sure. So as I'm targeting, it's kind of similar to what the Bills are doing, right? Again, whatever the Bills don't take, I'm taking the other guy. Like if the Bills take Cade McDonald, I'm taking Lee Hunter. If they take Lee Hunter, I'm taking Cade McDonald, and I'm sleeping well. Can you imagine Cade McDonald in that D line with Milton Williams and them? That's insane. That is insane to think about. Just that force in that middle, that zero tech nose at 330 pounds. Man, I'm projecting here, but I think the Patriots will be singing their praises, dancing up and down in the draft room, when they get Cade McDonald at 31. For sure in the first round. But either one, I think Lee Hunter, I'm not poo-pooing on Lee Hunter at all. I think he's a great guy as well. But I believe that either one would be a plug-and-play guy for that zero tech in that 3-4 for the Patriots in 2026. The second round, I would do safety at some point. A little bit down the draft board because the top guys will probably be gone at this point. But Kamari Ramsey is another guy I like. I really like his game. And Zachy Wheatley. I think Zachy Wheatley's out of Penn State. And my guy Kamari Ramsey is out of USC. Yeah, he's out of USC. So either one of those guys, really good zone cover corners, can run, tall, rangy safeties. I think with Barrett, being a box guy and having them on your back end of your defense covering those posts, you'd be a traditional post safety. I think that's a slam dunk at either space. In the third round, I will go after, I talked about Bryce Boschetter. I think his last name is, earlier on for another team. but he'll be a plug and play guy if he don't get picked by the other team. And my guy Keyshawn Elliott, I think Keyshawn Elliott will be a slam dunk for this team. I really would like Keyshawn Elliott's game, and I think he might be available to them at that spot because I kind of project him to be a 4th round guy, but they can kind of reach him for him early, late in the 3rd, and get him in house because I think he's projected to. I think he's like round 100, 110. I want to say I got it right. He's out of Arizona State, 6'2", 235. Runs a 4.5, 540 at 235. Yeah. I would definitely do that and line him up behind that D line. Because you imagine if it had Caden or Lee in the middle with Milton Williams and those guys and the edge they have, and then you line Keyshawn Elliott against that in that interior, they're gonna be nightmares in hell for people trying to run the ball against them. They really are. They really are. So I think they can do him a good service by drafting either one of those guys. But I definitely targeted Keyshawn to be the Patriot, and he would knock it out the park a year 1, in my opinion. So we'll see how that goes. But those are my top 3 guys for the Patriots. Lastly, the Jets. Last but not least, the Jets. We didn't know why alphabetical order. I'm not hating on them. Just alphabetical order. They were the last in the division to come up. New York, versus New England. It is what it is. So they did a lot of different things in free agency. That's all I can really say. It's almost like they were just throwing stuff at the wall, hoping it sticks, right? But the roster doesn't look bad. I mean, they have a solid roster. The quarterback position is really what I'm questioning. They did trade with Geno Smith. He's going to be the starter. I guess they're looking at the future when drafting a quarterback next year because I don't think they're going to – with them getting Geno Smith, I don't think they're going to reach for Ty Simpson in the 1st round, but I'll just be projecting. But starting at the top, like I said, they franchise tag Breece Hall, so they got to work that out. I mean, he doesn't have to sign a tag if he doesn't want to, but they can have up until July to work out a long-term deal. So we'll see how that goes. But technically, he's still a Jet. Traded for Minka Fitzpatrick from the Dolphins, and they extended him, gave him an extension, so he's going to be a Jet for a while. They re-signed Demario Davis, and I say re-signed because he was drafted there. He played there for a while before he got traded to the Saints. Now he's back with the Jets. Full circle. Him and Geno. Full circle getting traded or signing back with the team that drafted him. Right, so Geno's there, so is Demario, so they kind of have a reunion going there. They went out and got Joseph Osai from the Bengals, another edge to replace Jermaine Johnson, who they traded away into the Titans. So that was an interesting ad. Also went out and got Dylan Parham, another guard, the void left from Elijah Vera Tucker. And they also went out and got another quality D lineman, a good run stopping D lineman, David Yamada. So that was a good signing. Got another edge in Kingsley Ignagbari. I hope I got that right, Kingsley. So they got 2 edges, in the free agency period to kind of fill that role with Will McDonald still holding down the fort. Signed Nashawn Wright to kind of fill that Sauce Gardner void. Signed Dane Belton, another safety, as well as re-signed Andre Sisco. So they did some decent things. So, I mean, I would think that Aaron Glenn's defense should look a lot better in 2026 than it did in 2025 because they did not have an interception in the whole entirety of the league last year, which is sad. For a defensive-minded head coach to not have an interception, that's very poor. And I really believe he's on a hot seat just based on that alone. But we will see. It is the Jets. It is Woody Johnson, so who the hell knows? But that is their additions in free agency. So we'll see how things roll for them. But what they need outside of that is still up for debate. And here's my list. I think they need to go edge rusher. I know they got 2 in free agency, but I think they need to replace the idea of Jermaine Johnson being gone and or the fact that they want to, kind of buffer themselves if Will McDonald does not resign because he's up for contract, I believe, in the next year or 2. So you got to buffer for that. And just be honest, they're picking second. Okay, so the edge rusher class is premier. You can't pass on Avery Reese or David Bailey. You can't. I mean, again, I understand that they don't have the need technically right now, but they're just too good to pass up on. Now, you could argue they could go after Sonny Styles. You could argue that number 2, but you just can't pass on a premier edge rusher at Avery Reese or David Bailey at 2. You just can't. So I got to believe they're going to go edge rusher at number 2. I got to believe that. Again, they got 2 in the house, and they already had 1 with Will McDonald. But listen, when you look at David Bailey and Avery Reese at 2, you can't say no. You got your tackles already. Your tackles are solidified. You're not going to draft the guard that early. Only person I kind of could put a argument in for is Sonny Styles. But are you going to draft an off-ball linebacker at 2? No, most people don't do that. But again, if you don't draft those guys, you're going to regret it. So to have solid 4 edge rushers in the room, and you can kind of groom Reese and David Belly, you don't got to put them on the field too early if you don't want to, depending on how they develop, then that's cool. But you can't pass on them. It's two. You just can't. That's why I put edge rusher there. I just can't do it. They have 2 first-round picks in the first round, so they're going to go wide receiver right behind that. If Carnell Tate falls to them, they will pick him, I think. But we'll get into I think they will pick if Carnell Tate's not there because there's a chance he might not be there at their second pick. In the next round, they got 2 second-rounders as well. They got quarterback and safety on the best available track. So whatever best corner and best safety they have, the drafting those next 2 picks will probably be the guys. But I would go corner first because, again, you still need to build back that cornerback room because Sauce and those guys are gone. Build that back up first, then you go safety. But I would say that those probably your next 2 picks in the second round that they should go after. So we'll see. Those are my top 3 needs. So who they should go after? Obviously, I talked about Avery Reese and David Belly already. You select one of them and just sleep well because they're going to be dogs for you. Guaranteed, certified, put a stamp on it. It is done. Got to do it. Got to do it. Just, I mean, you picking second with those guys right there. You can't walk away from that saying that was the right move if you don't pick either one of those guys. You just can't. It's just a non-starter if you don't pick one of those guys. And pick either one. You're going to get production out of either one. Doesn't matter. But I would pick Avery Reese first. That's just my insider information. But wide receiver next, Mekhi Lemon is the guy that kind of been tracking for them to be picked at their second round, their second first round pick. Let me put it that way. But I would argue this because they have Mekhi Lemon is great. He can't play outside, but he's a smaller stature wide receiver. And they already have that in house. Gary Wilson is an outside receiver, but he's smaller, in a smaller stature, smaller in size. They have Adonai Mitchell, who they traded for last year. They have him. He's more a slot guy. So I would argue they need a big body wide receiver. That's why if Carnell Tate is there in a second first round pick, they're going to pick Carnell Tate because of Carnell Tate's size, his stature. He plays outside. He's a boundary guy. They're going to pick Carnell Tate if he's there. If he's not there, my next pick will be Jordan Tyson. Jordan Tyson is, when you say big receivers, he is the prototypical guy. 6'2", 200 pounds. He runs a 4.5. Yeah, big catch radius, can go up and get it. Big contested catch receiver. I would argue that they're probably going to go him. If they have a choice between him and Mekhi Lemon, I think I'll go Jordan Tyson to play outside. Be that one-on-one bounce your X guy that you can throw one-on-one back shoulder fades to and sleep well that night, knowing that he's going to catch the ball. So I think that Jordan Tyson could probably be the number 1 guy on their list if they need a big wide receiver to play outside. Adonai's going to play in the slot. Gary going to run a little bit of slot too, but he's going to be another outside guy. You need a boundary X guy in a 6'2" leaping receiver like Jordan Tyson would fit the bill for me. So I think Jordan Tyson would be the guy they pick. But I can see a conversation of putting just the best talent on the field, putting Lemon, Adonai, and Gary Wilson on the field, just let them go to work. But they all might be under 6'3", but they can run after catch. That's for sure. They can run and they can run after catch, and so can Mekhi Lemon. So if they just want to go all short kings and receiver, fine. They're going to be productive. But if you need a big body guy, because everybody needs one, I would argue that Jordan Tyson would be a pick at the first second round pick. The second first round pick that you have. That's a tongue twister. But the second first rounder that they have, they got to go receiver, and I think they'll go Jordan Tyson. But Mekhi Lemon makes the case as well. And then the second round, again, I will go after Colton Hood out of Tennessee. Very good man cover corner. I like his game in general. I think he covers man and zone well. I think he does a little bit of both well. I like his speed, I like his athleticism. I like his, leaping ability. All the traits that I think that a corner needs to have in this league, he has it. So picking him early in the second would be my first choice. If he's not available because somebody jumped on him because they hear me talking about him, I would argue that Chris Johnson would be the next pick. Chris Johnson, another good corner that coming out in this year's draft is going to be a really good corner that's going to be a good player in this league as well. So I would argue that Chris Johnson should be another guy that you should look at that should be another good starter for you. And of course, the safeties that I mentioned earlier in the pod, that they could be available as well in your second round pick. But yeah, those are my top 3 choices for the Jets, and they pick Averill, Jordan, or Mekhi, and Colton Hood. I think they're cooking with gas on defense especially. And we just have to hope and pray that Geno can be early Seattle Geno, and not Raiders Geno. But we'll see. It is the Jets. I say it again. So that's going to wrap up the AFC East, man. But like I said, we're going to be doing this all week. The AFC North's coming up tomorrow. We're going to do the AFC South and then follow and round it out with the AFC West. And then next week, we're going to do this NFC. So we're going to get it all done. Every team that you are a fan of, we're going to cover it all here. We're going to break it all down for you and get you right for the draft, man, and let you know exactly what's going to be popping in April. So as always, man, like I said, we started a Patreon channel. Check us out. exclusive content on there and there only, deep dive, breakdown analysis, all exclusive content, podcasts, referee concepts, interviews, all on Patreon. So sign up for Patreon today. There's a 7-day free trial. Go check that out. And I promise you, based on the content you're going to see, you will want to stay and be a subscriber there. If you're looking for the hit squad in any fast, in any place, Coach Mike Dub, Real H. Dallas Givens, or Robert Garcia, our Chargers insider, hit them up on any socials that you need to ask them questions about their teams or any NFL questions you need to ask them in general. Hit them up and get those questions answered for sure. If you're looking for the Lockdown Defense Podcast Network, hit us up on our socials. We're on X, formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, and YouTube. Please hit the subscribe button on the YouTube channel. Let the YouTube algorithm know we're doing big things out there. Support this podcast movement. As always, man, we're going to be back with tomorrow with another video and get you right for the draft coming in April. We'll cover all your teams in short order for the AFC. But in the meantime, between time, I'm your boy, Coach Defense. If you got to do one thing and one thing well, always, man, you got to step up to lock it down.